is something that we don't pay enough attention to because, particularly in the context of there's so many different definitions and so many different levels, like you just said. There's kind of the stuff that's real easy to see right on the surface, and then there's the stuff down below. Along those lines, though, because I'm intrigued about you used a term there, letting it go. So before we get to that, let's do some background on fear itself. So when you're talking about fear, there's all different kinds, as I said in my introduction. Give us specifically what it is that you're talking about, or what are some of the more obvious fears and then some of the hidden ones.
I mean, so obviously certain fears that we have are what I call cautionary fears and good fears. Okay, so certainly, like, if there's a dog that's growling at you, charging at you, you want to run or protect
Right.
yourself in some way, or just not jumping off a bridge on a dare or something like that, or being careful, walking on ice. So there's certain things that are built into our basically our DNA that we've evolved with that are good. But the vast majority of people, especially in these times, are in psychological fears that are not serving them in the way they want to serve them. And I call all fear as good, because fear is a pointer, and it points us to what is not serving us, and it points us to false belief systems. So we have to take a the first step in solving any problem is determining what that problem is. Okay, so we each have different fears. Some fears we hold individually, some fears we hold collectively as a human race. And the first step in we have to do is we have to determine what our fears are. And some of our fears are likely a lot more obvious than others. So a lot of people may have a fear of getting sick in the pandemic, or they may have a fear of losing their job, or they may have a fear of not having a significant other. But then there's a lot of fears that we hold that are underneath that. For instance, my fear of not being in control, I didn't know that for a long time. Or a lot of people have a fear of not being successful. A lot of people have fears that are tied to some of the upper fears. Like, for instance, they may have a fear that they're not going to have a significant other because they fear that they're not lovable or worthy. We all collectively hold a large fear over what happens at death. That, especially as we age. So there's a lot of fears in there. And what happens is the fear runs like a computer virus underneath the surface and affects the operation of us. And that's what we want to expose and see what our fears are. And then, once we do that, we're able to say, oh, I have this fear because it relates back to this conditioning I got either as a child. It could be childhood conditioning. There's a lot of childhood conditioning. It could be societal conditioning. There's a lot of societal conditioning, or it could be like workplace conditioning. You can say, oh, that's, I formed that belief system because of this conditioning. I was in these experiences, but that doesn't serve me at this point anymore, and I want to let go of that.
I think fear is something that we don't pay enough attention to because, particularly in the context of there's so many different definitions and so many different levels, like you just said. There's kind of the stuff that's real easy to see right on the surface, and then there's the stuff down below. From a successful perspective, from a get off the streets kind of perspective, or go do what you want to do and chase what you want to do. What I'm always talking to people about is it's so easy to say, I want to go do X. I want to go be an entrepreneur. I want to go get a promotion. I want to go get a new job that makes me more money. Actually doing it is very, very difficult. And I always encourage people that it always seems to you to be worse than it actually is. And I would think that worse than it actually is just their fear, maybe masquerading, maybe anxiety too. But is anxiety and fear kind of the same thing, I would think, and probably worry?
Yeah, they're basically kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So, um, but what you're saying is, I mean, there you can you can think on a surface level that you really want to be promoted in your job, but if you have a belief that you're not worthy of that, then that's not going to happen, because basically the universe runs off of energetics, and
Mm-hmm.
we create what we think. And so if we're thinking at surface level, but really at a core level, we believe that we're not worthy of being promoted, we're not going to, that's not going to happen for us.
Right. And I like that kind of what we think is what we can, what we think we have an opportunity to become. Nothing's written in stone. But I really am. I really, what I want the listeners to hear, so many of them are trying to break through and move up and kind of move out from where they are. And I talk about some people are happy going to work, being on that 8:20 train. And some people are happy being on the 5:20 train coming home, and they go to Costco every Wednesday at 6, and, Thursday is Mexican food night. And I say to them, good for you. You're happy. You're content doing that. You know how much your paycheck's going to be every 2 weeks. I'm happy for you. If you're happy, I'm happy that you found the thing that makes you content. But then there's a lot of people who are always talking to me about, I'm not happy. I'm unhappy in that environment, and I want to get out. And so then I will give them my advice, and I'll say, here's what you need to do. And you just got to step off that ledge. There's a movie, Indiana Jones, the third Indiana Jones movie. I think about this all the time. I don't know if you saw it. Where he has to go find he's in the cave, and there's a guy that's been in there for 300 or 500 years, and has to pick a cup that would have been the cup of the carpenter, right, of Jesus. You know the movie?
Yeah.
And he picks the little crappy cup and takes a drink, and sure enough, that was the one. Well, to get there, he had to go over this. He couldn't see it because it was camouflaged in this bridge, but he had to believe was one of the tests, and ended up throwing some rocks out there as he took that step. Ultimately where he saw it. But that first step he took and put his foot down really hard, and it was completely on faith. Essentially, he had to believe what he was reading and that he could do it. And I allude to that all the time when I say that's what getting out on your own and overcoming that fear is taking that step, and it never seems as bad as it could be. So if you, speaking to those people in particular, using that example, is there a specific thing that you could tell them that we could use to help them make that first step onto that invisible bridge?